In the Star Wars expanded universe, there is nothing quite like the anticipation of a brand new book, particularly adult books. Both adult books and YA books are considered canon, but because of their differing tones and themes, they deserve different categories. Both of these are fan favorites and are really just two sides of the same canon coin, so to speak, but both are equally important to the greater Star Wars story as a whole. Hey everyone, my name is Emma Park. I'm a content creator here at Youtini, and today I'll be breaking down the top 10 adult canon books. This list is accurate as of the end of 2020, so books published after that will not be included. Although I'm sure that at least one High Republic book will be joining this list very soon. With that in mind, let's dive into the list. Starting out at number 10 is Tarkin by James Luceno, which received an official Youtini score of an 8.1. This book was released in November of 2014 and takes place in 14 BBY, or before the Battle of Yavin. As the title suggests, this book centers around Tarkin and serves as kind of an origin story for his days in the Empire. We get to see his relationship with his homeworld, and that adds a layer of personality and character development that we don't really get to see in the movies. This book also gives us a glimpse into the inner workings of the Empire as Tarkin rises from the bottom of the Imperial hierarchy all the way to one of the top ranks. Like we see in some of the Rogue One tie-in materials, Tarkin is extremely focused on the Death Star project, and his fascination is no different in this book. If you're looking for more backstory and history on one of the most iconic villains in the original trilogy, as well as political and military machinations, this book is perfect for you. Next up at number 9 is Thrawn by Timothy Zahn, which received an official Youtini score of an 8.2. This book was released in April of 2017 and takes place between 11 and 2 BBY. Similar to Tarkin, Thrawn is all about Thrawn's Imperial origin story. We first meet Thrawn when he's in exile and found by the Empire. After discovering Thrawn's skills with regard to military strategy, Thrawn starts his way up the Imperial ranks. Thrawn meets Eli Vanto, a fellow Imperial cadet, who quickly befriends him and teaches him the ways of the Empire. He also serves as his translator. They both rise up the ranks very quickly due to all of their successes. One of the more interesting aspects of this book is that the titular Chiss character is one of the first, if not the first, alien in the Imperial ranks, not to mention a high-ranking Imperial on top of that. Overall, this is a great book that sets up Thrawn's Imperial career as well as future Thrawn novels. Moving on to number 8 is Solo, a Star Wars Story Expanded Edition by Mur Lafferty, which received an official Youtini score of an 8.3. This book was released in September of 2018 and takes place between 13 and 10 BBY. This is the only novelization on this list, since technically the Revenge of the Sith novelization isn't canon. That should speak to how great this novelization is. Like all movie novelizations, it's heavily based in its movie, Solo, a Star Wars Story, but that in no way limits how great this book is. A good novelization adds perspectives and character development that wouldn't have been possible or easily integrated into the movie. This one certainly delivers on that. The amount of depth that Lafferty adds to the characters is worth the read alone. Add in all the extra scenes that weren't included in the movie, and this book is a no-brainer. Next up at number 7 is From a Certain Point of View, The Empire Strikes Back by various authors, which received an official Youtini score of an 8.5. This book was released in November of 2020 and takes place in 3 ABY, or after the Battle of Yavin. In a similar fashion to its predecessor, From a Certain Point of View, this book contains 40 stories written by different authors that retells the fan favorite movie The Empire Strikes Back from different points of view, specifically that of the smaller background characters. And that's where the charm of this book comes in, with the expansion and development of characters only seen in the background for a few seconds. Suddenly, the background of Empire comes to life when you watch it after reading this book, which is exactly why it makes this list. Moving on to number 6 is Dark Disciple by Christie Golden, which received an official Youtini score of an 8.7. This book was released in July of 2015 and takes place in 19 BBY. When Star Wars The Clone Wars was cancelled, the story wasn't finished, which is unfortunate considering the popular nature of the show. Of course, in 2020 we were lucky enough to get the final season of The Clone Wars, which was amazing. But before then, you still had a way to get more Clone Wars in your life, because Dark Disciple is actually based on unreleased episodes of The Clone Wars. This novel follows Asajj Ventress and Jedi Knight Quinlan Vos as they join forces on a mission to take Dooku down. On their way there are tough decisions made by both, and these decisions are driven by their feelings for each other. This book really has everything that makes a Star Wars novel great: action, drama, romance, and addition to the lore. Next up at number 5 is Resistance Reborn by Rebecca Roanhorse, which received an official Youtini score of an 8.7. This book was released in November of 2019 and takes place in 34 ABY. This book excels in 2 key factors: filling in the time gap between The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker, and incorporating other characters from the canon and the expanded universe back into this book. We get to see Poe Dameron in more of a leadership role, and we also get to witness Rey and Leia's relationship develop into more of what it is in The Rise of Skywalker. The best parts of these characters are brought out from the EU characters that are brought in from other materials, as well as the older characters that join the cause. Moving on to number 4 is Alphabet Squadron Shadowfall by Alexander Freed, which received an official Youtini score of an 8.7. This book was released in June of 2020 and takes place in 4 ABY. The sequel to the first Alphabet Squadron novel brings all of the typical traits of a middle story in a Star Wars trilogy. It's gritty, dark, and things don't look very good for our heroes. This in no way detracts from the book, however. In fact, it might actually be its strongest quality. Our pilots in Alphabet Squadron face extreme adversity, and that makes the story all the more interesting. One chapter in this book might have sparked the most conversation ever in our Youtini Discord, and that's simply the magic that Freed's writing can bring to even just a small portion of a fantastic book. It's safe to say that we are in for quite a treat when we get the final chapter of the Alphabet Squadron trilogy in March of 2021. Moving into the top 3 now is Thrawn Ascendancy Chaos Rising by Timothy Zahn, which received an official Youtini score of an 8.8. This book was released in September of 2020 and takes place in 19 BBY. This book is the start of a whole new Thrawn trilogy, but is a sequel to the other 3 canon Thrawn books. Funnily enough, this is the exact same order as the films, so I guess that's a really good sign. We get to learn so much about the Chiss and how their politics and family dynamics work. At first glance, this might be really overwhelming and bog down the story, but it's quite the opposite. Even with political and family issues being on display in this book, there is still a ton of action intertwined with a mystery story, the likes of which only Thrawn could bring. We get new characters of all different ranks and responsibilities that really fill out this new world of the chaos, and it's absolutely intriguing until the very end. Coming in at number 2 is Bloodline by Claudia Gray, which received an official Youtini score of a 9.1. This book was released in May of 2016 and takes place in 28 ABY. If you like politics, this might be the absolute best book for you. We get information on New Republic politics, as well as the ideas and political parties that make up that system. However, based on the placement of this book on this list, that in no way makes it a bad or boring story. Leia Organa is given some extremely wonderful character development in this story, And what makes it even better is that this is some of the only appearances Leia makes in this time period. My favorite aspect of this story is seeing how Leia adapted to her knowledge of being Darth Vader's daughter and how she deals with that publicly. And lastly, at number 1 is Master and Apprentice by Claudia Gray, which received an official Youtini score of a 9.5. This book was released in April of 2019 and takes place in 39 BBY. It should come as no surprise to anyone that a Claudia Gray novel takes the top 2 spots on this list, as well as the top spot in the YA category. The amount of character development that Gray incorporates into this novel is what really makes it shine. Qui-Gon Jinn, a character that we only see in one movie and a tiny bit of the EU, is given so much more personality and backstory than we've ever seen before. I think that one of the biggest intrigues to come out of The Phantom Menace was how Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan worked together and how they got along. In the movie, they seemed close, but seemed to be different in some way. This book explains all of that and gives their relationship much more context, all while surrounding it with an extremely interesting plot. That'll do it for today's video. I hope you've enjoyed our list of the top adult canon books. But we want to know what you think. Did you agree with our scores? What are your top canon books? What would you change about our list? Let us know in the comments below. If you're looking for a breakdown of the top 10 YA canon books, I've got you. Check out the link in the description for that video. And while you're down there, check out the written guide for the best canon books. There you'll be able to find more information on the books I've already mentioned in this video. If you're looking to take a deeper dive into the books, check out The Living Force, the official podcast of Youtini, or catch the live show every Monday night at 7 p.m. Eastern at twitch.tv/Youtini_US. And we also have another live show called Legends Look Back, which, you guessed it, is about legends. Visit us online at youtini.com for timelines, reading guides, and book profiles for every single story in the Star Wars galaxy. And if you'd like to help support Youtini more directly, check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/Youtini. Thank you all so much for watching, and as always, may the Force be with you.